Amanium Shadow Poo!
Hello, welcome to the Bronze Age Monsters Shadow Show. This is a show we make every other week for our patrons. We have been kind of going through all the great things we wanted to talk about these last few seasons, but never got the chance. So, Matt, you scheduled a lot of cool stuff that we have really looked forward to talking about. And you and I have both been really big fans of the Curtis magazine, Tales of the Zombie. And so we just I'm shocked. I mean, we've talked around this book for years now. You know, we mention it quite a lot. We mention it with a lot of fondness. And so I just think your idea was to just kind of take one of these issues and talk a little bit about it, but then just kind of talk about our thoughts in general of Tales of the Zombie.
Yeah, I just wanted to talk just the way we're doing this kind of like higher level reaction to a story rather than going through a story beat by beat like we used to in the older days. So I'm glad that we picked this one. Like, it made sense for us to finally do a Tales of the Zombie because, like you said, we've been talking about it since probably literally season 1. We have great love for the Marcos work and Gerber's writing. I think when I decided to do these, I every time there was a book, I picked something, I would see how many issues there were, find that die and roll it and pick which issue it was. And I feel like this issue particularly was a really good one because something interesting happens here. This is the end of the story of Simon Garth's story, where there's one or two more. No, I think he appears in the next one. He's not even in his final issue.
No,
I think Brother Voodoo was in his final issue. So I think his story wraps after this one. So this is the convention, the storytelling trope, the conceit of Simon Garth's fate breaks in this story. So it's kind of cool that we got this one.
Yeah,
it's also super sad.
I mean, it's very sad, and it's also super meaningful. But again, I think this is a story that can kind of encapsulate the whole Simon Garth experience. So this was a good choice for sure.
So if folks don't know this book, we mentioned on the last Shadow Show that a lot of people have this essential, and it's notorious for this. So I did read it in here, but it was also collected in the Marvel Horror Rises from the Great Tomb, whatever it's called. But I don't know where else you can find it. I don't know if it's on Marvel Unlimited. Do you?
I don't think it is on Marvel Unlimited. No.
God, that'd be a sin. And most of that magazine stuff just not on there?
Well, I think some of it was. I don't know. I gave it up back in Man Wolf season, I think. But yeah.
So I mean, Jacob, I guess we can just kind of just recap what the premise is as far as like this was created by Roy Thomas. He plotted the first story. And Gerber wrote the script based off of that, but it was a throwback to a Stan thing from Menace. You want to talk about just its golden age origin, and then how kind of Roy rebooted it for the magazines, and then we could talk about the premise of the series as an anthologized story, what the kind of conventions were, and then we can just dive into this story in particular.
Yeah, I mean, I know what you're talking about with Roy kind of repurposing something with even talking with him. He will say that yes, the majority of his ideas were repurposed from Golden Age stuff. And I'm a big fan of Menace. I mean, I know what story they're talking about, but again, I mean, I think Roy just kind of took this loose idea from the story and then decided to kind of tell this tale of Simon Garth. And pretty cool that they were able to use the word zombie. Yeah.
And I do remember that they, in the first issue of Tales from the Zombie, they have kind of started his story again, rising him from the dead. And then they actually flash back to Simon Garth's ending, and they just recycle that Menace story and I remember they drew his hair and made his hair long. Because in the Menace story, the guy, his 50s, he has shorter hair.
Yeah.
But they made it you can see where they drew on and made his hair longer so that 70s Simon Garth, Iggy Pop Simon Garth.
Yeah.
Physically matches the original one, which I thought was weird.
Yeah, that is weird.
From that first story where Roy plotted it and Steve wrote it, Steve wrote the rest of these.
Yeah.
It's awesome. So, so the premise is, I forget the exact details. Simon Garth was a rich, I think he ran a coffee empire.
Mm-hmm.
And I forget why it does. Is he killed by his employees? And then Layla, his secretary, is a voodoo priestess, and she rises him up. And there's a medallion of Damballah. And there's a sister medallion. There's two twins. And so Simon Garth wears that one, and that's what his essence, part of his spirit, is trapped in it. And that's how he's resurrected. And whoever has the other half of the medallion can control him. So he is just a vessel for whatever the person's will is, who has it. And so the conceit of the series is every story, somebody gets their hands on this thing and makes him do things. So much like Man-Thing, he doesn't have a lot of will, or any will. He's just being driven to do things. And so Gerber gets to tell these amazing stories, and Pablo Marcos does this gorgeous art showing them of just this character being at the mercy of other people's machinations.
Yeah, like Man-Thing, Simon Garth, I mean, he's the title character, but the real story are the other characters that come into his world each issue, just like Man-Thing. And that's kind of, what makes this book really sing, and what makes it really memorable is that it's not just, there's horror elements, there's really horrific things that happen in this very issue that we read, but it's the human stories that we get along the way that are really, I don't know, it's a very, very cool way of telling stories, even cooler than Man-Thing, honestly. Because each person that has the other half of the medallion, uses it in different ways. Guess what? Most of them pretty bad, including this issue. But I don't know. It's a very unique story. It's a very unique book in the Curtis magazine line. Probably one of the most loved, I would think.
I think so.
I don't think anyone's gonna
pretty easily.
Yeah, well, the others didn't have they were all like, oh, it's Satana this month. It's all this different stuff. So they were more like, either tryout books or kind of with rotating casts. But Tales of the Zombie, there was a big Simon Garth story right up front every time.
Yeah, and like you're saying, Gerber just gets to go nuts with this. Like that the only boundaries are what we just described, and you get to just see Gerber just flex and stretch out and do these crazy things with it. I mean, like you said, he did do this with Man-Thing. Like we read a story about where Man-Thing's not even in it. A woman who once knew Ted Sallis gets sold a candle with weird shit in it, and she hallucinates. And that's the story. And we flipped out on Marvel by the Month when we talked about it.
It was great.
Gerber getting these just cool constraints, narrative constraints, and just getting to go nuts with them. He just thrives in it, right? Yeah. It's like telling E. Cummings, write a poem, but don't use any T's and don't use any R's. Okay, wow. And then somehow that makes them even try harder to make a compelling poem. It's like that. And when you're paired with an artist like Marcos, it's hard to go wrong. I mean, two people at the top of their game, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely at this time in their lives too. And Marcos is so amazing, and his other work is so amazing, but I really feel like he was personally invested. I didn't really read anything about him just saying more than just he really enjoyed working on these books. But I don't know. It just he seems very invested. He seems to at least be, storytelling wise, really on the same page with Gerber, and their partnership on this is really amazing. And I highly recommend anyone, if you haven't checked out any of this stuff, please do. It will make your week. You will instantly see why it is so loved and why we respect it so much.
Yeah, I bought that Essential collection that fell apart 20 years ago, and I think about it, those stories in it, all the time. Mm-hmm. I mean, 2 decades on, I mentally we talk about on the show all the time. It is powerful stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So do whatever you can to get your hands on this. If that involves you putting an eye patch on and going to weird parts of the the 7 Cs and do it.
It's worth it.
Yeah. Okay, so as I mentioned, this is there were 10 issues of Zombie. It's just the indicia just says zombie, but everything else says Tales of the Zombie. I don't know why. I know. So this one's called A Death Made Out of Ticky-Tacky. It is the penultimate Simon Garth story of his own book. And so it starts off, we meet Layla, the person that was Simon Garth's secretary when he was alive and was a magnate of a coffee company. And she is the person that raised him from the dead, and she has dragged him into this very dodgy part of New Orleans. And he is following her will because apparently the person having the other half of the medallion has no will at this point, or had no wish for him. So he can just be drawn around by the priestess who rose him, I guess. I don't know. Mm. But I do like this whole sequence where they're going through like this ultra slum, and Gerber gives this like super like gritty, like, man, the cynicism in this story from him, from the people who have the medallion later, but this view of the ghetto where he's talking about like Layla grew up in these streets, like dancing between piles of garbage. She's menaced by a rat, and she remembers like a rat like attacked her in her crib when she was little, or her bed. And so she's scared shitless of rats. And then we see this like rat like that scared her. Like Simon reacts and pulls it off of her, and then it jumps on him like this rabid mammal, and it starts chewing on his face, and he doesn't feel any pain. So he pulls it off and just throws it against the wall. Like, it's a grim, weird start, don't you think?
Yeah, it's a really grim opening sequence. Yeah, and yeah, Gerber can be kind of, acid tongued a lot, and he is in this. There's a lot of I don't know. Yeah, it is dark, and it's definitely his dark view of humanity, which is 100% right a lot of the time. But so just that whole sequence was really dark and kind of scary with the rat. But then she basically, tries to kind of just like hide him and be like, all right, just stay there. You're cool. Like, I'm going to try and figure stuff out. She goes to see Papa Doc, and who ends up giving her basically like a bottle that he says, I can never pronounce. Yeah, of Gree. Yeah. And so he's like, okay, you'll know when the time is right to do that. And I did love this, like, cause she goes to a place and like sees him and knows him. And then he gives her the bottle, and then she like turns around and she's like, he's gone. It was like, what, like his house? Like everything? But I don't know. Yeah, but yeah, seeing him, and then, but when she comes back, Simon Garth is gone because he's been summoned.
So I love this, like Gerber and this whole sequence we've been talking about is hyper fixated on the urban grit and the filth and the ghetto and all this stuff. But then like she says, Simon, you stay here. I got to go meet this guy. She goes to meet Papa, what's his name?
Papa Doc. And like, it's just like filthy tenement buildings, and then just like one lot of just like an old shack. Yeah.
Right. Just like a random, like, this house has been here for 200 years. Everything else is like 20-year-old, like, affordable housing. You know what I mean? I love that weird, like, disconnect, that this like swampy hut is in the middle of the city between ghetto buildings. Such a cool note from him. So she returns. Simon is gone, and because he has been summoned by someone who has the sister medallion. And so we get to see this beautiful page. I love this, Jacob, on it was page 12 of the scan I'm looking at, where Simon's like wandering off, and you see him, he's going into the suburbs, but there's this left-hand panel where if you follow Gerber's text, it's like just following Simon as he's shuffling along in his rags. And then at the bottom, like in his shadow, there's another smaller inset version of him, and like a dog just watching him walk by in the middle of the street. And just like these like ink splatter blots that Marcos did, like it just, that whole kind of European-y kind of vibe of like, you can have multiple panels within panels without any panel lines, just things happening. Absolutely gorgeous. But I just love this like he just walks past probably train tracks, right? Typically in America. And all of a sudden he's in the suburbs. He's in the ghetto, walk across some train tracks. Now you're in the suburbs. And it's green grass, the hissing of summer lawns, as Joni Mitchell would say. And, the dogs aren't there to attack him. The dog's like licking his hand because it's another Pleasant Valley Sunday or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So it's nighttime and he is drawn to the person that's summoning him, and music is coming out of a house, and he walks up to the house where this rock music is playing. Can you describe the scene that is where he's being summoned to?
Yeah, so he goes in. I like that the guy it's a fireman, Fred Miller. It says fireman by profession, whose hobbies include hunting, collecting antiques, guns, outdoor cookery, and swinging. And so this is a very this is a swingers party. And I love him. He's right in the middle. There's all these half naked gals kind of just like on a table and kind of gyrating. He says, let's all make like them hoodoo freaks, get naked and have a bad old time. Yahoo! And it's did you read the little note that Gerber did after this? We'll have to talk about that, about swingers.
I don't know if I did.
Yeah, I'll okay. It was interesting just about his views on this, it seemed like. But yeah, so Fred has summoned him. I like that half the things that he summons him for, like, he doesn't even know that he's doing it, and it takes him a while to realize it. And so, Fred says, okay, here goes. Hey, dead person, get your ice cold rump in here. And then, zombie smashes through the door. And it's just like, here I am. And he's like, oh my God. And so, the women get hysterical, and Fred turns to his guns and just, shoots Simon in the chest, and he topples over, but then just gets right back up again, because this is great. So Fred, shoots him, and then he's like, I'd like to see him get up after that. And Simon's like, okay, well, I was ordered to get up, so yep. I'm gonna rise up. And he's like, oh my God, don't come near me, don't touch me, stop. Then one lady's like, well, Fred, he's listening to you. He's stopping. And so, then Fred kind of figures out that, oh, okay, I am actually in control.
So, and what music do you think they were listening to when Simon broke through the door? I imagine it was Steely Dan.
I would think Steely Dan, maybe Grand Funk Railroad is what I was thinking.
Grand Funk Railroad. Yeah. Something with a sequence where they're figuring out, like, wait a minute, check this guy's pulse. One of the ladies is a nurse, so she checks his pulse. Like, there's no pulse. So there's this whole page where they realize, okay, he's actually a dead guy. Holy crap! You summoned a zombie when you were talking about voodoo and all this stuff like that, right? And so they start playing around with them, and then the chick's like, "Dude, it's this thing you're holding is what's doing it." And then she's like, "Where did you get it?" She holds it up next to Simon's. They match. And we get a flashback where he's like, I was fighting a fire and blah, blah, blah. So we're seeing something that happened in Zombie 5. Papa Shorty burned up in a fire, and this guy found that medallion and it didn't burn into his hand like in Raiders of the Lost Ark. Somehow he grabbed it and he said, I didn't figure it'd be needed for evidence or anything. I just took it as a souvenir. I'm a nice guy.
That's what firefighters do.
Yeah. So they start to realize, like, wait a minute, he came here because you called him here. This thing controls him. And then they prove it by telling him to dance. And so there's a dance routine where he's just jerkily like dancing to the music, mimicking the chick who's holding the medallion saying, dance with me. And Gerber's like narration is saying like he resents this, even in like the deep recesses. He's not even alive anymore. And he's like, this is beneath me.
It is, because it is beneath him. Yeah, no, it's horribly demoralizing and demeaning. So, yeah, I love this. Okay, so I did like this little bit of narration thing. It says, again, you are compelled to obey, and deep down you must wonder if these living persons who laugh at you, who applaud your unwilling antics, are not as soulless as yourself. Swingers, they call themselves, seekers of pleasure. And so, yeah, he just kind of, they're like, Freddie boy, you've got yourself a freaking slave. His wish is your command. And so then, now, again, I know it's good storytelling too, but the first thing that comes up, he's just like, revenge.
Yep.
and which is a common thing in this book. And so first off, because you know what Fred's thinking, he's like, we have all these loud swinger like kind of sex parties, and man, that family keeps complaining about the noise. Like, you know what? Fuck them. Fuck that working class family. Like, that's who I immediately want revenge on. Because the guy, he's calling the cops, and so then we get this nice little slice of life of the family. Like, he's got a little chef hat on. He's making steaks that he took hours to pick out for the perfect marbling, and kebabs, and so they're all so happy, having a good time. And then suddenly, the music starts going again, and so he's had enough. He's just like, those idiots are gonna get a piece of my mind. So he goes over, he's like, Miller, open up. And so he ends up going inside, but, Simon's there waiting for him. And then he just, throws the guy and starts beating the shit out of him.
All the violence in here is super disturbing because there's that, to me, it's like because there's that remove of like someone ordering someone else to do something awful and the agent doing it has no control, no whatever. So it just makes this like this 1 degree of remove from the horrible things you're doing, just makes it extra disturbing to me.
Yeah.
So Simon just grabs this innocent dude who was just barbecuing steaks for his wife and his mom and dad next door, picks him up, slams him in the ground, and just starts beating him to a pulp.
Yeah.
I mean, like it says, like grimly, savagely, you smash his nose. It's all second person like that, by the way. You smash his nose, cause his lips to burst against his teeth, batter his stomach until his mind is gone. I mean, he is just a tireless machine, just pummeling this guy. And then he walks out, and then Fred storms in and puts on this innocent act. Whoa, what happened, buddy? He's like, I just came over here, and this monster beat the shit out of me. He's like, monster? It must have been like a burglar or something. He's like, no, man, he had like sallow skin, and he was cold and lifeless. He's like, it must have been a mask. I'm having a drink for that.
Yeah.
Even if it's a lie, I'm still having a drink for the mask. He's like, hey, buddy, let me get you home. Like, no, I can make it, So he leaves, and then like they shut the door, and everybody comes out from hiding. Like, oh my god, that was fucking amazing! Like these are like the worst human beings ever, right?
They're so terrible. Yeah, they're the worst.
So the first instinct is, well, now I want my turn. So why don't you cover the next escapade of use of Simon as a tool?
Yeah, so they decide to, it was his buddy Harvey. Yeah, and he decides to go after his boss, who he's employed a tool and die corporation. This guy named Louis Garrison, and he, he's just there. It says he was a self-made man, born in poverty, he clawed his way up, but then he forgot about his roots. He should have, been nicer to Harvey, I guess. And so he says he's pretty tyrannical. And so, we see him in his fancy mansion, and he's in a swimming pool. He dives off, and waiting for him underneath is the zombie, which I thought was, really terrifying. Like he jumps in and, opens his eyes underwater, and it's just like, oh, fuck. And so, Simon barely has to do anything because the guy has a heart attack and dies.
Yeah. Yeah, and so, they come running out like, oh my god, he passed out. And they're just like laughing, and they're like, he's not breathing.
Yeah.
And like, oh shit, let's get the fuck out of here. And like, no, wait. He's an old dude. He went swimming in the middle of the night. He had a heart attack. We're fine. Let's just leave in an orderly fashion. We're all good. And then, this is when they start to kind of get a conscience. They're like, Fred, I feel sick. Let's head back home. And then he's like, look, I told you, they can't connect us with Morrison's death. Don't sweat it. Besides, says Fred, Dora still wants to get that SUNY secretary who lords it over her in the typing pool at Garwood. And Garwood was Simon Garth's company. So you might have missed that if you're not paying super close attention. I did in the first time until this happens. So they send him to this tenement building in the slums. She points up to a fire escape, says, go up in there. Simon climbs up inside. He goes into the dark and starts beating a woman in the dark mercilessly, just beating her to a pulp. And then he sees that bottle of Gree as he's leaving, and he feels a weird connection to it. And then he hears, Simon, why? And we find out that it was Layla from the beginning, the woman who loved him in life and raised him from the dead to try and salvage some humanity for him or something. And after his death, and it was her that he beat. We're not sure if she survives. He beats her pretty brutally, but she pulls the necklace off of his neck. And now he is untethered. He has nothing controls him anymore. And in the last panel of that page, he is storming off. He has full consciousness and full will and can do whatever the fuck he wants. And he has a score to settle. And I'll let you talk about the epilogue of the story.
Yeah. So, I mean, we don't see the action, which I'm actually okay with. I think it's a brutal reveal. It says, but the police arrived too late. And the cops show up. And it's like, my God, they've been torn to pieces. How many guys attacked them? It's like, oh, if you believe the phone call, one. They're like, maybe a gorilla. But so, yeah, you see that, basically all the swingers, I mean, you can't even really tell who's who. They've just been beaten to, they're just like faceless ooze and bodies. And, but the Detective Jagger, he's like, oh, hey, what's that? He's like, oh, something I've been looking for the better part of 2 years. And so, it's all kind of coming together next issue. And, Simon's kind of walking away, and it says, you hear the detective's odd remark, but are too deep in despair to pay it heed. Your only compulsion is to return to the woman Layla, to learn if she yet lives, or if her soul has departed this world along with your dreams of eternal rest. So, yeah, like you said, this is it's all coming to a head next issue.
Yeah. So, yeah, Layla was the key. So she was the priestess who bound part of his soul to the Damballah necklace. She's the one who can undo that and let him rest. Otherwise, he is doomed to this existence that he has. Great ending. Like I said, I'm so glad that Satan gave us that 8 when I rolled that die, because
right.
We got a great goddamn story, and man, it was grim.
Yeah, it's a really grim story, but beautiful. And yeah.
So I don't remember. I know I read this 20 years ago. I don't remember this final story when he. I know from just reading around this that his daughter played a big part. Like, she appeared quite a bit in this. Like, he was on the periphery of her life, like drawn to her, obviously. But I believe this final story takes place at her wedding. Like, I think he is drawn to her wedding or something like that. Or so I don't know how it ends. I don't think he finds peace, because he appeared a few more times. Like, he appeared in Bizarre Adventures, like in the early 80s, that Doug Minch wrote. And they probably stuck him in a team up or something stupid, but I don't remember any of those when he jumped over into color comics. I'm sure they were terrible.
No, there's a weird little like kind of missive in the mails to the zombie part of this, which I got to scan online because I actually couldn't find my essential. I don't know, it's in some box that was not unpacked yet. But it was saying that there's a little, it deals with a rather provocative theme. It says, writer Steve Gerber explains. He says, technology has given us the freedom to love without fear of pregnancy, that is. But every innovation has its price, and it's my contention the new sexual freedom has been acquired with a corresponding loss of depth and emotional contact between human beings. Thus, the swingers in a death made of Ticky-Tacky can relate only on a physical level toward one another, toward their enemies, and toward Simon Garth. They never stop to consider his plight, only how they can use him. He says, no, I don't oppose the change in the moral climate. I welcome it, but at the same time, I see it as another case of technology progressing more rapidly than man's perception of himself, and in that, I see danger. Is he just talking about birth control?
Yeah, it sounds like he's saying he's just the freedom that birth control gives us creates kind of an amorality around all aspects of our life. Like, he just kind of echoes out.
It's an odd. It was definitely a prevailing sentiment at the time, but a little weird for Gerber to kind of echo that.
Yeah, can you read that first? Like in the first sentence where he's saying the pill gives us.
Technology has given us the freedom to love without fear. ... of pregnancy, that is. But
what was the next line? Sorry.
Every innovation has its price. And it's my contention that the new sexual freedom has been acquired with a corresponding loss of depth and emotional contact between human beings.
Okay, that was what I wanted you to read. Thank you.
Yeah. So yeah, kind of interesting.
Yeah, I mean, okay. Everything in life is nuanced to me. I'm a Libra, so it's all about balance. I get what he's saying. I also can reject it fully. Depends on the day or the hour he asks me. Yeah, I can see what he's saying. I mean, it feels like a knee-jerk reaction. It feels a little on the conservative side of like, well, if you can sleep with anybody and not have the fear of getting pregnant and having to be linked to them forever, then you can just shallowly flit around and not have a connection, and that can just multiply into every full echo out in every aspect of every relationship you have. Seems a little conservative, a little fuddy-duddy to me.
It is a little fuddy-duddy. I mean, I think especially just, I don't know. And, we weren't alive when this was happening. So I get that, we might have a different perspective, but yeah, it just seems like just the whole bringing birth control in. I was like, oh man, I don't know if I like that, but it was interesting. I mean, I understand what he means, but it's just, I don't know. And maybe it's he's kind of saying it in a slightly nuanced way, like not just coming out and being like, wow, but I don't know, reading between the lines. I don't know. I thought it was very interesting. I had a hard time kind of knowing what to make of it, but, Gerber's a very interesting guy. He's a very intelligent guy. And, so I thought that was a weird thing that I would not have expected from him.
Like, I choose, just from what I know of him, to give him the benefit of the doubt and say he's saying it's great that not everyone has to be scared that they're going to make a child with a person that they want to be close with.
Yes.
But there's also another side. Like, I choose to give him the benefit of the doubt and say that I would too,
yeah.
There's an obverse side of this coin.
Yeah, which definitely there is. And I think he even says later on, hey, the new moral climate, I have no problem with it. I welcome it. He's like, I'm totally fine with this, but yeah, so, complicated, but I thought it was interesting. I wanted to read it. And
I'm glad you did, because I did not read that. Another thing that's interesting is the title, because I had to look up to make sure I knew what Ticky-Tack meant, because I thought I did. So a death made out of Ticky-Tack. Ticky-Tack means either, and specifically about like materials, like something you hold in your hand. It usually means tacky, tchotchke shit, like Chinese crap we would call it today. But in building materials, it's very specific to the suburbs. Like in my house, I live in a D.R. Horton planned community. Ticky-Tack means shoddy building materials. So since he is literally in the suburbs, I think he's talking about planned housing, HOA. This is not lath and plaster. This is not craftsman home. This is particle board and cheap plywood, you know what I mean? So taking that meaning of it, and that being the title of the story, and kind of rolling it out to like, these are the people that live out there in this world, kind of living this kind of superficial, particularly the swingers, not necessarily the guy cooking the steaks, but like that there's a whole suburban shallow shittiness thing that's just going on and spreading out into our culture at large in this country. Interesting notes, I thought, from Gerber.
Yeah, for sure. I didn't know if he was making reference to that. I mean, well, yeah. I mean, obviously he was. It just made me think of because Malvina Reynolds mentions it in Little Boxes. So, and I know that Steve Gerber.
It's a lyric reference.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it could be. I mean, what you're talking about, yeah, obviously is true. But in her song Little Boxes, which is talking about these communities and how they're all just the same and they're made out of Ticky-Tacky, and
that's where I've heard that phrase from. That song.
Yeah,
that sounded familiar.
That's what I take. I mean, but we're coming at the same conclusion, just from different angles. But yeah, no, and you're right. I mean, I think it is his commentary on that. It's got a lot of interesting stuff he's saying.
Yeah. So yeah, I absolutely loved it. I read it 2 or 3 times in the last few days, and I could read it almost every day. It's dark. I mean, it's
very dark,
but it's gorgeous, and there's little things like that. There's a sequence there where so you see Simon Garth like down the ground, like kind of getting himself back up. I think after they told him like drop dead or something like that.
Mhm.
And Marcos just chose to keep his pencils, not use any inks on top of it. Like I love when he just does little choices like that. And like the other thing I was talking about where there is his shadow and he just takes a paintbrush and just is like flicking splatters all around. Like he's just, it seems like he loves, like you said at the beginning, I think he loved this assignment.
Yeah.
So absolute joy. And so folks, if you haven't checked out Tales of the Zombie, you're missing out. It's all this good, in my opinion.
No, agreed. So what do we have next? I didn't look.
So next up we have give me 1 second here. My desktop is full of crap. There we go. We have Monster Hunters from Charlton.
Oh,
Number
nice.
6.
Okay, that'll be fun.
That'll be fun. Yeah, I've been wanting to do some Charlton forever with you. So, yeah, these all. This is an anthology monster book from Charlton. They had a handful of them that didn't go beyond like 18 issues. There was like Creepy Things, Monster Hunters. I'm forgetting a few of the other names, but Mike Zeck or Tom Sutton did the covers of all of them, and they're gorgeous.
They're so cool. Yeah, those Sutton covers are amazing.
Yeah. Usually Sutton paintings. So yeah, I think there is a framing device. I believe there's like a old like guy like with a white curled up mustache and like a safari hat on who's like the host. I think he appears in like one of the stories every issue, but the other ones are just kind of anthology. But they had some great talent, you know, even if those Charlton stories at the time were kind of forgettable more or less. There was a Toth, there was a Grandinetti, there was he'd bring in like a Wood, like they'd bring in like some really talented people to do these forgettable stories sometimes.
Yeah.
So they're fun to look at. So we'll have a great time with them.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm excited for that.
Me too.
All right. Well, yeah. Thanks for joining us. And yeah, next time we'll be talking about Monster Hunters. But until then, hail Satan.
Hail Satan. What is that, Jacob?
That's the bonus show. That is the bonus show I've heard.
Bonus show.